If a member declares an interest, you're required to leave the meeting prior to consideration of that item. Business for consideration today is of a quasi-judicial nature, and members are reminded that if you leave the meeting during consideration of any item, you are unable to vote on that item when you return. For those attending remotely, please advise me via the chat button if you're leaving the meeting. Before I take the sediment, I will begin recording the meeting. I will now take the sediment for this meeting of the Planning Local Review Body held on the 4th of September 2023. The following members are present: Councillors Ali Callison, Jerry Convery, Colin Dewar, Gladys Ferguson Miller. Elise Frame is not present. Apologies from Councillor Mark Horsham. Councillor Leslie MacDonald is not present. Councillors Richard Nelson, Norman Ray are present. We have apologies from Councillor Graham Scott, and Councillor David McLaughlin is attending as a substitute. Thank you, and I'll pass you back to the Chair for today's business.
Thank you very much. We'll go into the agenda. Agenda item number 1 is any declarations of interest. There is no any declarations of interest. Item number 2 is the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to number 8, and these are submitted for approval as a correct record. I will move these as correct.
I'll second it.
Otherwise agreed? Agreed, thank you. Agenda item number 3 then is a review of case in respect of planning application P221355, which is pages 9 to 78 in your pack. The item before us today is a notice of review from Mr. Stephen Paul Davis. The applicant is asking the PLRB to review the planning officer determination to refuse an application for planning permission for the change of use of agricultural land to private ground at RD Kirkbank Road, Kirkbank, Lanark. And firstly, I'm going to ask the planning advisor to describe the background to this request for a review to the members. James.
Thank you, Chair. This local review relates to the refusal of an application for planning permission for the change of use of agricultural land to private garden ground at Ardtaig, Kilbank Road, Kirkfield Bank, Lanark. The site is located within Thanks. The site is located within land designated as rural, as defined in the adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2, and is also located within a special landscape area. The agricultural land is to the rear of a newly built dwelling house and garden, and is approximately 5 metres deep and runs along the width of the boundary of the existing rear garden. The land is sloped and runs away from the house and is part of a larger agricultural field. As noted in the agenda papers, there were no letters of representation received following advertisement of the application, and no consultations were required given the nature and scale of the proposals. Since its adoption in February, National Planning Framework 4, or NPF 4 for short, now forms part of the development plan, alongside the adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2. Section 24.3 of the 1997 Planning Act confirms that if there is an inconsistency between NPF 4 policies and a local development plan, which was adopted before the 13th of February 2023, then the policies in NPF 4 will prevail. The current South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan was adopted in 2021, and therefore NPF 4 would prevail should there be inconsistencies between policies. Therefore, in assessing this local review, the local review body are respectfully requested to consider the following relevant policies of both NPF 4 and the South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2, which are NPF 4 Policy 17, Rural Homes, which seeks to encourage, promote and facilitate the delivery of more high quality, affordable and sustainable rural homes in the right locations. In terms of the adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2, the relevant policies are Policy 4, Green Belt and Rural Area, which states that within the rural area, the council seeks to protect the amenity of the countryside while at the same time supporting small-scale development in the right places that is appropriate in land use terms and is of high environmental quality that will support the needs of communities. The rural area functions primarily for agriculture, forestry, recreation and other uses appropriate to the countryside. Development which does not require to locate in the countryside will be expected to be accommodated within the settlements identified on the proposals map. Isolated and sporadic development will not be supported. Policy 5, Development Management and Placemaking, which states that In order to ensure development takes account of the principles of sustainable development, all proposals require to be well designed and integrated within the local area. Proposals should have no unacceptable significant adverse impacts on the local community and the environment. And finally, we have policy NHE 16 landscape, which states that development proposals within the special landscape areas identified in the strategy map will only be permitted if 1. They accord with LDP2 policies and guidance on greenbelt and rural area, and 2. They can be accommodated without having an unacceptable significant adverse effect on the landscape character, scenic interests and special qualities and features for which the area has been designated. Within the SLAs and the wider landscape of South Lanarkshire, development proposals should maintain and enhance landscape character, including the scale, design and location of development within the landscape, the setting of settlements and buildings within the landscape, the pattern of woodland, fields, trees, hedgerows, water bodies and other features, particularly where they define, create a positive settlement urban edge, the historical qualities of the area and its sensitivity to change, landform features including key notable skylines and hills and views to and from them. Development proposals should take account of the South Lanarkshire Landscape Assessment 2010 and where relevant the Landscape Capacity Study for Wind Energy 2016 and Tall Turbines Landscape Capacity Siting and Design Guidance 2019. It is these policies that provide the development plan basis for considering the application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, James. As members will now be aware, from the 13th of February 2023, NPF4 was adopted and published by the Scottish Ministers and now forms part of the Statutory Development Plan, along with the South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2. The next point for the PLRB to consider and decide is how to proceed with this review. The applicant has indicated that further written submissions would be of assistance to the local review body, and taking account of what is on the papers, we have to decide if they do in fact contain sufficient information for us to determine the review today, or if we need more written information, a hearing or a visit to the site. I think that all the information we have, plus the detailed photographs we have of the site, does provide us with all we need, and we need to consider this review without either a site visit or a hearing or written further submissions. Agreed?
Agreed.
Members therefore agree that we can proceed without a site visit, hearing or additional information. We can now proceed to the review, and I will open the review for discussion. Don't see any hands raised. Can I then summarise the points made? That the application is for the change of use of agricultural land to private garden ground. The adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2 identifies the site as being within the rural area and a special landscape area. If we consider that there is no valid policy justification to support the change of use at this location, and it would not accord with Policy 17 of NPF 4 and Policies 4, 5 and NHE 16 of the adopted South Lanarkshire Local Development Plan 2, permission can be refused. Or if we consider that there is adequate justification for the proposed route extension alterations, we could grant planning permission subject to conditions. Our options here today are uphold or reverse or vary the planning decision. I will now invite any decisions and the reasons. If there is no hands up, I would like to reverse this decision. I do not think it is contrary to our local development plan, and I would therefore grant the permission for the change of use from agricultural land to private garden ground.
I'll second that, Chair.
Is there anybody otherwise minded? No. Conditions?
So we want to just advise that we'll email it to the remote members. I'll dish it out. You're just going to read it out rather than John, because there's one.
That's fine. Okay. And just the conditions, I will read this out and we will email it round to everybody online, and people in the room will get a copy. I'll give you just a moment to receive these, and then I'll read that out.
Thank you.
Email's gone if you want. Just
Okay, application P221355, the condition and reason, the change of use of agricultural land to private garden ground. The development to which the permission relates shall be begun no later than the expiration of 3 years beginning with the date of grant of this decision notice. Reason to comply with section 58(1) of the Town and Country Planning Scotland Act 1997 as amended. Therefore, the decision of this PLR... Oh, sorry, can I just clarify if everybody's in agreement?
Agreed.
Agreed. Anybody's otherwise minded? No. Okay, therefore, the decision of the PLRB is to grant planning permission, subject to the agreed condition that I have just read out. The next stage is that a written decision notice will be issued by the PLRB, and this should be issued within 28 days. Agenda item number 4, there are no items of urgent business. I will ask the clerk to stop the recording, and I thank you all for your attendance, and please have an enjoyable day. Thank you.